So, hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for coming today and taking your time out of this busy time in the term. My name is Roxanne Fenton. I am the Associate Director in Career and Professional Development. And we're going to talk today about presenting your portfolio in a portfolio review. So I'll give you a little more details about what we're going to do, have a little roadmap for you if you like that. We'll talk briefly about the purpose of a review, the context in which you may do a review. We'll talk about technology and preparing for the review, then how to start and end the review, and how to present your projects and follow up. So that's what's coming. So I thought it would be good just to get us all on the same page. It's pretty self-explanatory, but the purpose of a portfolio review, right, is to show someone or a group of people your work. And usually you're going to get some feedback on that work, whether that's direct feedback in an informational review, or whether that's more indirect feedback or just some general comments that you might get in an interview. But whatever the context for your review, you can always use the experience to improve either the individual pieces of work or projects that you have, or the way that you show and explain your work overall. Of course, the reviewer may or may not consider you for opportunities based on the review. Obviously, if it's an interview review, then yes, they are considering you for an opportunity. But for a lot of informal reviews, that's not necessarily the case. But in any review, you're going to get your work in front of others, and it's an opportunity to expand your creative network. So we're going to talk about that as well. Thoughts about how to get a review. There are often open calls or invitations for submissions. I know for those of you in the entertainment industry, a lot of the employers who were at Lightbox last weekend put out calls, open calls in advance of the weekend for people to sign up for portfolio reviews with them. You can also do outreach on your own and ask for informational interviews, where an informational portfolio review might be a part of that. If you have a regular mentor that you work with, or you get to participate in the Career and Professional Development Mentorship Program, then portfolio review is a part of that as well. So just to be thinking, what are we talking about here with a portfolio review? What's the goal? I've mentioned these two contexts, that there's informal portfolio reviews and there's an interview. But there's also the context of doing this in person and online. And that can be and then I have the interview possibility. But any of these can be in person or online. You can interview in person, you can do an informational review in person, you can do them both online. So in thinking about those two different contexts, in person or online, I want to start by talking about managing your technology. And these are really some basics, but I think they're things that in the busyness of everyday life, and in, sometimes we're rushing to a portfolio review from other things, that we can forget about. So the first is make sure that your device has power. So most likely you're going to be sharing your portfolio digitally on a laptop or a tablet. So make sure that it's charged, which is easy enough to forget about as you're using it for other things. The next is that you want to control what the reviewer sees. So you want to send a good impression when you sit down in front of the reviewer or you pull up your screen. So this means making sure that you don't show things on your device that you don't intend to show, right? Like I have 50 bajillion tabs open on my browser right now, but you wouldn't know that unless I told you, because you can't see it. So you don't want to show private information. You don't want to show things that, your chat with your friend in another window. So tips for this are having your portfolio open beforehand, right? So that you've already opened the portfolio, say it's on a tablet and you're going to hand the tablet to someone, the portfolio is open and it's full screen. Or that you have the portfolio open and ready and you have other windows minimized before you go to screen share. So that it's just the portfolio that they're going to see and not all the other messiness of our daily lives. If you're doing an review in person and you need the Wi-Fi, and there's ways around that, check and make sure that you can successfully get on the Wi-Fi while you're waiting, right? So you should be showing up to your portfolio review, about 10 minutes early, just like to an interview. And that should be plenty of time to make sure you can successfully get on Wi-Fi or establish a hotspot if you need it. In a virtual review, you want to practice screen sharing so that you can, like, for example, on Zoom, that you can quickly share and go right to what you want to show, and that you know how to get out of it quickly to go back to looking at the people that you're talking to. And then lastly, this kind of goes with the power, but just before you head out to a review, test your website, test your files, maybe reboot your device, just to make sure you aren't going to have any surprise technical problems. Anybody have any questions about technology and reviews that you want to pop in the chat? I'll hold on here for a second and just see if anybody's got any questions. You can also unmute yourself and ask, but we are recording right now, so you would be on the recording, which we put on our website for other students who weren't able to be here, or for you all if you want to hear this again. So just giving everybody a little bit of time to ask questions about technology. Okay. All right, I'm going to go on.
Hi, Roxanne.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of project presentation, when we're working with projects that are a little bit more sort of new media oriented, and that maybe, the best way to interact with the space is with a headset or something. If we're doing extended reality, when we attend these portfolio reviews, should we come ahead of time with equipment? Should we just show documentation, like sort of with projects that are a little less sort of standard in terms of how they're viewed? Like, how should we be prepared to show them?
That's a really great question. And I think it kind of depends on the setup of the review. I think if you've got like a really quick 10-minute review, maybe you're at an industry event, then I would just show documentation. If you've got a longer review, and especially if the person who's reviewing is someone who can really give you feedback on that new media project, then I would come with the device, come with the headset, have a phone or a tablet set up if it's an alternate reality project. Again, you really just want to be sure that you've done everything you can to make sure the technology works ahead of time. If you do an informational, like you set something up with someone kind of in an informational interview, and you kind of have asked them to review your portfolio and they've agreed, and you have more time, then absolutely come with the equipment. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that answers the question. I guess it's very sort of audience dependent.
Yeah, I think it's about making sure that what you're doing fits the time and the environment that the review is going to be taking place in. Yeah. All right, so that's one aspect of being prepared ahead of time. There's some other preparation that it's really good to do. So the first is to know the reviewers. If at all you can find out who they're going to be, and I know this isn't always possible, but know the person who's reviewing you. Get a little bit of a sense of their background, who they are and what they do. If you have their name, you can look them up on Instagram, LinkedIn. You can see if they have an Instagram for their own work. This is going to help you contextualize the review that you get from them. If you have somebody who's really into, visual development, and you're a little bit, you're wondering between visual development and storyboarding, for example, you may not get a real strong read on the storyboarding that's in your portfolio from them. And it's just useful to know that in advance. It can also help shape, the questions that you ask or the way that you present your work. So if possible, know the reviewers. Choose what to show. So for many reviews are 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes even as little as 10. And so for those reviews, you want to select, one project, maybe two projects, two parts of a couple of projects, depending on the length of the review. And depending on whether or not this is, a review for an opportunity where you're going to want to make sure that you are showing your best work, or whether you're going to want to focus the review on the work you'd most like feedback about, the things you want to know if they're working. You really want to get someone's opinion on their experience of your work. That's going to shape the pieces that you pick. It's going to be rare that you can go through your whole portfolio in one portfolio review. That would be really if you're working with a mentor who would have that kind of time to devote to it. So knowing that you're probably not going to show everything that you've created, consider preparing a slide deck or a PDF that just has the images and sketches from those projects that you want to show. And again, the number of projects you can show depends on how detailed the project is, how much process you have to show. But having a slide deck or a PDF kind of frees you up from needing Wi-Fi. If you are planning to present from your website, then you do actually have to make sure that you have a good Wi-Fi connection. More of an issue in an in-person review than in a virtual review, because you've got to have Wi-Fi for the Zoom or the Teams or the whatever connection that you're using. But even so, if you're going to present from your website, make sure your website's up to date and practice navigating to the projects that you're going to focus on. Practice how you're going to guide someone through that project on your website. And again, it's perfectly fine to pull out the projects that you want to show, have a little bit of extra just in case there's extra time, and put those in a slide deck or a PDF. And the last piece of preparation that I'm going to suggest is to prepare some questions. This can be really helpful if there's extra time, or if the reviewer doesn't, for whatever reason, seem to have a lot to say. You can ask the reviewer for further clarification. You can ask them about their workplace or their own career path. You could also ask them about general advice about selecting and preparing your portfolio, right? If this is a recruiter who's just doing a review, it's not for an opportunity, you could ask them, when you are looking to hire people, what are two key things you look for in a portfolio? So know who you're reviewing with, if at all possible, do some research on them. Curate your work that you're going to show and prepare some questions in case there's extra time. Now let's get to the review itself. You want to start and end the review successfully and smoothly. So you want to start by introducing yourself to each or all of the reviewers. You know, if you're in person, you might want to shake hands or bump fists. Share your name, your department, and your concentration. So, you know, hi, my name is Roxanne Fenton. Separate your first and last name so that they can hear them clearly. I'm a graphic design major with a focus on packaging. So you can have even a 3 to 4 sentence about me statement that you can share that identifies your goals and interests. If you don't know specifically what you want to do, like you're thinking, I might want to do backgrounds, but maybe I want to do background painting, maybe I want to do visual development. I don't know what my portfolio really speaks to. If this is an informational portfolio review, you can ask for feedback about that. You can ask for those of you who are doing new media, right? You can say, I'm really excited to show you an interactive project that I have today. And I'm really interested in knowing your experience of the project, right? Since it's experiential. If you don't already know who they are, ask the reviewers for their names. Usually giving your name will prompt that exchange, but if you didn't hear their name, it's fine to ask for clarification. Ask, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. What was your name again? Totally fine thing to do. So introduce yourself, get their names, and then just as you open the conversation by introducing yourself and getting the conversation started, you want to wrap up the conversation and say thank you. You know, thank the reviewer for their time. Maybe repeat one of the highlights of what you heard during the review, and identify how that will help you with the goals that you stated in your introduction. So that can really let the reviewer know that you were listening. It helps make you more memorable to them, and it provides a smooth ending to the conversation. Let me pause again here and see if we've got any questions about preparation or about starting and ending the conversation. I'm going to dive into the meat of presenting your project next. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go on, but if anything comes up, just pop it in the chat. So this is the key part, is actively presenting your projects. And on a certain level, the visuals of your projects are going to speak for themselves. And hopefully you've had time to do that preparation beforehand, and it's well laid out and you have all the pieces that you need. But you still want to guide the conversation with the reviewer a little bit. So you want to have a main talking point for each piece or each project that you show. Something that you can say in 1 or maybe 2 sentences. This could be the main reason or the main idea behind the project. It could be the core concept, if that's the kind of project you have that has a concept behind it. Maybe if there was a brief that you were responding to, that could be good to share. You could also share the main thing that you learned or that you were trying to learn from completing the project. You know, so in this project, I was really experimenting with how our visual perception changes when we change the environment that it looks like we're standing in. Just 1 or 2 sentences thing that you can say to apply some context for the reviewer. And this is going to shape what they tell you, and it's going to help you get more useful information back. The other thing is to show your process. Don't just jump straight to the final version of the project. Reviewers want to understand your thought process. And this is especially important if you're sharing your projects in an interview. They're hiring you to think and to create, and they want to understand that process. So be prepared to explain your thought process and outline the various sections or stages of the project. Again, you're going to start with an overview that you can explain in maybe 2 sentences. And then you can expand wherever the reviewer shows interest. Oftentimes, I think we think that showing our best work means showing only the final version of the work, but sketches, in-process documents, research documents, these are all important parts of the process. And while you may not want to have that be the main focus of what you show, having it available as part of an overview can be really valuable, and can get you deeper feedback. When you're talking about your work, you want to go beyond the visible. So watch out for saying things like, this is my background painting, this is my prototype. That's a sign that you're just identifying things that the viewer has likely already noticed. Instead, you want to share art and design decisions that you made and give the reasons why you made those decisions. You want to talk about why you chose to do something a particular way. And then feel empowered to ask questions. If you don't understand a piece of feedback that someone has given you, you can ask for more detail, or you can repeat it back to them to be sure you understand what they're saying. So those are 4 little areas of presenting your work in the review to think about. And I have one last area because there's an after the review that's equally important. So connect with your reviewers on LinkedIn afterwards. Hopefully you got their names. Maybe you even asked them, if it's okay to connect on LinkedIn. Send them a thank you. If you got their emails, if you got their contact information, that's really great. You can send them an email, even better. But one of the first things that you should do in that follow-up is send a thank you. I know you thank them for their time at the end of the review, but it's always good to thank them again in a message, whether that's a LinkedIn connection message, whether that's an email. But it's good to say thank you for your time. I really share something that you learned from the review. Your comment about my form language was really helpful and pointed me in a new direction to work on it. This is going to help them remember your review because they've probably done more than one. And it's going to help them remember you. And as you follow up, you can discuss future possibilities. Maybe this is the kind of review where you can ask the person, hey, I'm going to work on the feedback that you gave me. And, in a month, would you be willing to look at one of my pieces again? They may not have time, but you won't know if you don't ask. I see some questions in the chat, so I'm going to check and see what they are. Aha, it's Eilish putting in the worksheet and the thank you message. Thank you, Eilish. Helpful resources appearing in the chat. The presenting your portfolio is really a walkthrough of this presentation. So we kind of took notes for you and put them down in a document. And with that, I am going to remind you of the things that I talked about. Be prepared, both with your technology and with your knowledge of what you're going to show and who you're going to show it to. It's a social interaction. The The review is a social interaction as much as it is about the nuts and bolts of your work. So start and end successfully by introducing yourself, by getting to know who the reviewers are, and then ending successfully by thanking them for their time, getting contact information, and reaching out. Don't be afraid to go deeper, both in how you explain your work and in asking for clarification about feedback that you get. They can skim through your work very quickly and they're going to see certain things, but there are important things like decision-making and design thinking and artistic goals that someone is not necessarily going to see from your review, from just looking at the work. And then take the time to follow up. That extra thank you can really cement you in the memory of your reviewer and can help you build your network and build relationships. So with that, I am going to open it up again to any further questions, and I will actually stop the recording at this point, so you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions that you have.